It's 2 a.m. You're lying awake, staring up a ceiling, and your mind is just racing.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there.
Right. It's bouncing between this endless list of completely trivial thoughts like, did I leave the porch light on? And then these really heavy, crushing worries about your life choices. You just feel completely out of control.
It is so exhausting. And it's a very specific kind of isolation, being the only one awake with all that noise.
Exactly. Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're continuing our series with episode 4 of The Art of Letting Go by Nick Trenton. We are figuring out not just why our brains self-sabotage at 2 a.m., but how to actually short-circuit that panic.
Because let's face it, when that midnight overwhelm hits, it feels like a massive personal failure. Like you're doing something fundamentally wrong.
That's not, right?
No, not at all. What's fascinating here is that this overwhelm is not a personal defect. I mean, it is entirely biological. Humans are simply wired to seek instant gratification and avoid the pain of change.
Okay, so we're just built this way.
Yeah, exactly. When any routine shifts in your life, your brain instinctively sounds the alarm.
So think about when you last felt like you were going completely off the rails just because a basic daily habit shifted. Let's ground this in a real-life example.
Sure.
Say you start a strict new financial budget. Day one, you experience what's called uninformed optimism. You're absolutely thrilled, right? You're going to save so much money. You're buying a house.
Right. You are focusing entirely on the anticipated benefits without really acknowledging any of the actual costs.
Exactly.
But then, the reality of the effort required sets in. You have to actually say no to going out for dinner with friends.
Oh, yeah, that's the hard part.
And this is where the emotional cycle of change takes over, dropping you straight into the dreaded valley of despair.
The valley of despair. So this is that exact moment where the reality of the hard work completely eclipses the initial excitement of the goal.
It is the lowest point, is where most people quit because the discomfort is just incredibly high and the perceived benefits feel way too far away to even matter.
And because you're stuck in that valley, your brain tries to, solve the discomfort by overthinking.
Which never actually works.
Right. That panic generates a massive amount of mental clutter. Suddenly, failing to stick to your weekend budget spirals into worrying about your career trajectory, your relationships, and, your unread emails.
That is exactly the progression. All that mental clutter is really just an accumulation of negative self-talk, worries, doubts, and fears.
It just builds up.
Yeah, and it completely hijacks your attention. It hinders you from focusing on what actually matters in the present moment.
Well, I have to challenge that a bit because when I'm in that 2 a.m. panic, the absolute last thing I have the energy to do is sit there and process my emotions.
Oh, absolutely. I'm the same way.
If our brains naturally fear loss more than we desire gain, and we are hardwired to avoid pain, how do we actually survive this valley without giving up?
Well, the trick is you don't try to process everything. You use a specific, immediate micro-habit.
Okay, what is it?
The brain dump. You literally set a timer for 2 to 10 minutes, and you write down absolutely everything in your head.
Everything.
Everything. Do not edit. Do not filter. Even if it sounds ridiculous, it goes on the paper.
So you're essentially forcing a physical release valve.
Exactly.
It reminds me of hiking all day with an overstuffed, incredibly heavy backpack. You finally just dump the whole thing out on the living room floor so you can sort the essential survival gear from the useless trash.
That is a great analogy.
But why does simply writing it down actually stop the biological panic?
Well, when you keep thoughts circulating in your head, your amygdala, which is the brain's threat center, views them as active, unresolved dangers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. By physically writing them down, you engage the prefrontal cortex, which is the logical executive part of your brain.
So you're shifting gears.
You are literally signaling to your nervous system that the threat is now contained on paper. That shift turns off the biological alarm bells.
That makes so much sense. You move the problem from the emotional center to the logical center.
Precisely. But this brings us to the critical final step of the brain dump.
Right, because you can't just leave it all on the floor.
Right. Once it is all out there, do not try to tackle everything you just wrote down at once. That will only trigger a brand new wave of panic.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to meticulously pack the trash back into the bag.
Exactly. You have to use the 80-20 rule. You look at that messy pile of thoughts and find the 20% of items that will relieve 80% of your stress.
But how do we actually identify that 20% when our brain thinks absolutely everything on that paper is a five-alarm fire?
You look for the domino tasks.
The domino tasks.
Yeah, what is the one action, like sending that single overdue email or paying that one bill, that instantly makes three other worries irrelevant?
Oh, I see.
You prioritize by urgency and importance, and you pick only the top three actionable items. Just three.
Keep it manageable.
And then you take immediate action on them. Do not let them sit there and fester.
So what does this all mean for us? It means we have to fundamentally reframe how we look at failing to stick to our plans. Failure isn't a measure of your self-worth.
Definitely not.
It is simply feedback for growth. It just tells you what gear is missing from the backpack.
And the real payoff here is totally grounded in reality. Clearing your mental clutter today builds the exact resilience you're going to need to handle tomorrow's unexpected changes.
That's a great point.
You aren't just organizing a to-do list, you are organizing your mind so it is ready to adapt when the next shift happens.
So as you take these tools into your own week, consider this. What if the one lingering thought keeping you awake tonight isn't actually a problem to solve, but just an outdated fear asking for permission to finally leave?
I love that.
Make sure to like and subscribe to get notified about the next episode.